Keir Starmer has a plan, Emmanuel Macron has one, and so does Donald Trump. So Italy does not want to be left behind. Their Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni proposed a plan yesterday.
Italy continues to ask for Article 5 also for Ukraine, and this is the proposal that I think it would certainly be much more effective.
European Union. You might view the EU as a group of carefree countries, united only by diplomatic and trade relations. Maybe even US President Donald Trump assumed so at one point. But the EU is not as soft, weak or passive as one might think, especially when it comes to collective deterrence against Russia. Thus far, the EU has simultaneously been imposing sanctions on Russia and providing robust support packages to the government in Kiev to secure Ukraine. Still, the EU realises it needs to take an even more effective step to end the war once and for all. And what could that step be? The United States persuading Russia, thereby lightening the EU's burden? Or guaranteeing Ukraine's territorial integrity before any peace negotiations take place? Probably the latter makes more sense. The notion that we have to do more, long discussed in the corridors of Brussels, has reached a new level with a bold proposal from Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. According to Meloni, Ukraine could benefit from the alliance's collective defence umbrella without waiting for the difficult process leading to full North Atlantic Treaty Organisation membership. And this seems to be possible only if Ukraine joins the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation. However, while United States President Donald Trump has reiterated that Kiev should renounce North Atlantic Treaty Organisation membership, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's insistence on the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation is seen as a critical factor complicating peace negotiations. According to the Russian president, if Ukraine joined the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation, the war would escalate beyond Europe. But Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni has come up with an incredible proposal that shatters all of Russian President Vladimir Putin's taboos. Giorgia Meloni said that Ukraine could benefit from the International Military Alliance's common defence rights, even without being a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation. Could the principle of the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation's Article 5, according to which an attack on one member state is considered an attack on all members, be extended with a special status to Ukraine, which is currently not formally part of the alliance? While this idea resonates within the European Union, the reaction of the Russian side remains to be seen. Moscow is adamantly opposed to any move that could bring Ukraine under the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation umbrella. So is Meloni's proposal realistic on the European stage, or is it a diplomatic manoeuvre? Moreover, the European Union is considering the possibility of sending a peacekeeping mission to Ukraine. France and the United Kingdom have already signalled this. Understanding these steps to bring Russia to the table against the deterrent force reveals the historic transformation of Europe's security architecture. Italy's offer of international military protection for Kiev could have a wide-ranging impact not only on the Moscow-Kiev line, but also on debates within the European Union, from the Trump administration's stance to the European Union itself. Here, we take a closer look at Italy's surprise exit and Europe's plans to change Ukraine's destiny. We will also examine how the European Union views the issue and what else the bloc can do for Ukraine. But first of all, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel, turn on notifications, and give us a like to stay up to date with our content. First of all, it is worth noting that Italy is one of Ukraine's key supporters. Since Russia launched its full-scale invasion in February 2022, Italy has been one of Ukraine's staunchest supporters, providing Kiev with 6 military support packages. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni must have deemed this aid insufficient, especially in recent times, because she did what was necessary for Ukraine and made a decision that shook Russia to its core. Giorgia Meloni suggested that the North Atlantic Treaty Organisation's Article 5 protection could be extended to Ukraine, even if it is not a full member, which would be better than options such as deploying peacekeepers to monitor the ceasefire. Meloni told a press conference in Brussels that while extending the coverage of North Atlantic Treaty Organisation countries to Ukraine would be different from membership, it would certainly be much more effective. Article 5 states that an attack on any North Atlantic Treaty Organization member would be considered an attack on all. Under this article, the parties agreed that an armed attack on one or more of them in Europe or North America would be considered an attack on all of them, and therefore, if such an armed attack occurs, each of them, in exercise of the right of individual or collective self-defense recognized in Article 51 of the Charter of the United Nations, shall assist the attacked party or parties by taking such action as it deems necessary, immediately, individually, and in concert with the other parties, including the use of armed force, to restore and maintain the security of the North Atlantic area. Article 5 was first and only invoked after the September 11th terrorist attacks in New York, but collective defense measures have been taken on many occasions, including in response to the Russian invasion of Ukraine. So here, the Italian Prime Minister is talking about the possibility for Ukraine to be guaranteed the protection of the international military alliance without having to become a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. Meloni's proposal, combined with the country's support for Ukraine since 2022, could increase tensions between Rome and Moscow. Ukraine's desire to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization has been a major bone of contention between Kyiv and Moscow, with Russia demanding that Ukraine give up its aspirations to join the alliance as part of a future peace deal to end the conflict in Ukraine. United States President Donald Trump, for his part, has been pressing Ukraine to forget about joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, arguing that these aspirations are probably the reason why it all started. While Kiev continues to insist on joining the alliance, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky included North Atlantic Treaty Organization membership in his first victory plan presented to allies in September 2024. According to a Gallup poll conducted in November 2021, public sentiment in Ukraine about joining the alliance has changed since the start of the war, and hopes of joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization have diminished. But now, with this surprise move by Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, Ukraine's hopes have been revived. If the North Atlantic Treaty Organization wing approves it, Kiev could benefit from Article 5 even without being part of the international military alliance. Giorgia Meloni supports this. But what would it mean for Russia if Ukraine were to benefit from Article 5 even without joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, as Meloni suggests? First of all, Russia can no longer attack Ukraine. The hot phase of the war could end. Putin cannot threaten Europe with the use of nuclear weapons. Perhaps relations could become more formal and diplomatic. But what about full membership? It may be that Ukraine's joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization means that it offers the best deal for a lasting and effective peace in Eastern Europe. Not only would the country's membership serve as a credible deterrent against future Russian aggression, it would also ensure meaningful burden sharing among North Atlantic Treaty Organization members. And most importantly, even if a post-war settlement leaves part of Ukrainian territory de facto under Russian control, there is still a responsible, realistic, and plausible path for Ukraine to join the alliance. But for this to work, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and Ukraine need to take 3 key steps. First, as part of any peace deal, the Ukrainian government would need to formally pledge not to use force to retake its occupied territories and, instead, focus on a long-term diplomatic strategy. This should not be a problem, as Zelensky has already raised this possibility. In fact, the Ukrainian leader has been one of the most willing parties. If you remember, Zelensky has already announced that he would resign from his current presidential post if Ukraine were to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. At a press conference in Kiev, Volodymyr Zelensky listed the conditions for his resignation from the presidency, saying that he was ready if it meant peace for Ukraine. Stating that his priority was to ensure Ukraine's security, Zelensky admitted that he did not want to be the head of the Kiev government for a long time, stating that joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization was the best option for this. It was also noteworthy that the Ukrainian leader made this statement on the 3rd anniversary of the war. Moreover, Zelensky's promise to resign if Ukraine joins the North Atlantic Treaty Organization came just days after United States President Donald Trump accused him of not making a choice. Trump reminded Zelensky that he urgently needed to hold elections on democratic grounds. But Volodymyr Zelensky said that the elections were postponed because his country was in wartime. Now, the Ukrainian leader is talking about resignation. Of course, this resignation announcement of the Ukrainian leader will probably have a big repercussion on the Russian side as well. Because one of the most critical red lines of Kremlin leader Vladimir Putin is that Ukraine should not join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. In fact, according to the Moscow regime, this is one of the main reasons for the war. Putin claims that he does not want to see a North Atlantic Treaty Organization military force near his borders. The Russian leader has even hinted that this would prolong the war. Putin has repeatedly said that if Ukraine joins the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, the war will be much wider. In other words, according to Putin, the possibility of Ukraine joining the international military alliance would completely escalate the war. However, if Zelensky resigns, the United States could step in and decide to admit Ukraine to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. After all, the last meeting between Trump and Zelensky went very badly. It was claimed that the two leaders had a serious falling out at the controversial summit. Zelensky's refusal to sign the mineral agreement angered Trump. In fact, Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky had signaled a few days after his meeting with United States President Donald Trump that the deal could be reconsidered. However, despite the Trump regime's willingness to sign the agreement, sources close to the United States administration claim that the relationship between the Ukrainian leader and the United States president can no longer be the same. Therefore, according to the sources, Trump's approach towards Kiev may change in the event of a change of government in Ukraine. According to the sources, Donald Trump might be willing to include Ukraine in the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. But even if these claims come true, and this scenario is realized, the United States leader will still have a big problem to solve. How will Trump convince Russia? At the moment, the United States and Russia are in contact in the name of ending the war. But even if they are in contact, the United States is unlikely to be able to convince Russia. Experts have different proposals for Ukraine's North Atlantic Treaty Organization membership. According to them, membership for Ukraine could be modelled on the 1954 declaration made by West Germany on the eve of its North Atlantic Treaty Organization membership. The declaration pledged never to resort to force to achieve German reunification or to change the existing borders of the Federal Republic of Germany, and to resolve all disputes by peaceful means. With a strategy similar to this plan, all internationally recognized territories of Ukraine could be protected, including those temporarily occupied by Russia. These territories could be invited to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, but only areas outside the Russian occupation would receive the Article 5 security guarantee. Article 6 of the 1949 North Atlantic Treaty defines the alliance's area of responsibility as the North Atlantic area north of the Tropic of Cancer and, as a result, United States territories such as Guam and Hawaii. The United Kingdom's Falkland Islands and France's Reunion Island are not covered by Article 5. This means that Ukraine, if adopted, would not be the first alliance member to have partial territorial exclusion from the Collective Defence Clause. On the other hand, there are those who would argue that Ukraine will not participate in this process, and that countries are prohibited from joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization until any territorial dispute is resolved. However, this is a common misconception stemming from a poor understanding of the alliance's enlargement study published in 1995. A closer look at this document shows that territorial disputes do not prevent a country from joining the alliance. As the study states, states with ethnic or external territorial disputes should resolve them peacefully in accordance with Organisation for Security and Cooperation in Europe principles. The resolution of such disputes will be a factor in deciding whether a state should be invited to join the alliance. Of course, prospective members should ideally resolve any border disputes before joining the alliance, but policymakers must operate in the real world, not the world they would like to be in. The enlargement study makes it clear whether the resolution of such disputes should be a factor in determining whether to extend an invitation. and there is precedent for countries with border disputes to join the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. For example, Estonia, which joined the alliance in 2004, still does not have a legally recognized border with Russia, and Croatia, which joined in 2009, has unresolved border disputes with Serbia. Since the North Atlantic Treaty Organization's first enlargement in 1952, their open-door policy has greatly enhanced transatlantic security. But Russia's malign actions in Georgia, Ukraine and Moldova, and the transatlantic community's inability to push back, have given Moscow a de facto veto over future membership. Russia now knows that all it needs to do to prevent a country from joining is to invade or partially occupy it. In fact, and perhaps most importantly, the alliance would have to amend Article 6 to exclude Russian-controlled parts of Ukraine. This could be done during the accession protocol process that each alliance member goes through before admitting a new country, and there is precedent for this. Article 6 was amended before Greece and Turkey joined in 1951, and in 1963, after the independence of Algeria, the North Atlantic Council recognized that Article 6 no longer applied to the Algerian departments of France. Amending Article 6 temporarily would take away this veto right from Moscow. This would change the situation completely, starting with Ukraine. The only question is whether the leaders on both sides of the Atlantic have the creativity and political will to make it happen. If such a decision is made, Russia could indeed be in a desperate position. Putin's dreams of a residual invasion could be completely dashed. Besides Ukraine joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, another option to stop Putin is to send in peacekeepers. The European Union is considering this issue thoroughly. The United Kingdom and France are among the leading contenders for sending troops to Ukraine. Italy, on the other hand, supports the steps taken by both countries. Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni said that the simplest solution to Kiev's security problems would be to send European troops to Ukraine, as proposed by the United Kingdom, but rejected the option of deploying Italian troops. Plans by the United Kingdom and other European countries to send troops to Ukraine are still in the very early stages. But United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer may already be thinking about how such a move could play out at home. Sending United Kingdom troops abroad, even for a peacekeeping mission, always has the potential to trigger a huge public debate. The government is considering deploying military forces for the first time in 11 years after the Cameron government discussed intervention in Syria with the United States Obama administration in 2014. Since then, the United Kingdom has not seriously considered deploying troops overseas. For now, the picture is slightly different when it comes to sending peacekeeping troops to Ukraine. In mid-January, 58% of those surveyed strongly or somewhat favoured the deployment of United Kingdom troops as peacekeepers. Support is higher among Labour voters at 66%, with Conservative Party voters and Liberal Democrat voters showing similar levels of support. Starmer may find support from limited opposition to the peacekeeping deployment. Only 15% of Labour voters either somewhat or strongly oppose the deployment of United Kingdom troops as peacekeepers, below the national average of 21%. But history shows how volatile public support can be when it comes to war. According to experts, Starmer will have to make sure that his government publicly understands the need for United Kingdom troops to serve as peacekeepers in Ukraine, and he will need to do so honestly. Sir Keir Starmer will be aware of the importance of parliamentary support for military action. The most significant challenge to Starmer's plans may come from the Treasury rather than the Conservatives. The proposals reportedly include 30,000 British and European troops. The number of troops the United Kingdom would contribute to this joint force is unclear. However, cost will be a primary focus for Finance Minister Rachel Reeves. Reeves has committed to increasing defence spending to 2.5% of gross domestic product, but no timetable has been set. Starmer is under pressure to increase this further, but any increase could be financially difficult given the United Kingdom's fiscal situation. Experts predict that deploying United Kingdom troops to Ukraine, whatever happens, could become a defining part of Starmer's foreign policy. Increasing military spending and demonstrating that the United Kingdom will help cover the cost of peacekeeping in Ukraine could also help set the tone for Starmer's relationship with Trump. On the other hand, there are important innovations on the French side. In a televised address to the nation, French President Emmanuel Macron said he plans to hold a meeting next week with army commanders from European countries willing to send troops to Ukraine following any peace deal with Russia. Macron also said that France must be ready in case the United States is no longer on its side. Taking all these details into account, it is clear that the European Union is doing its best to protect Ukraine. Italy's proposal for Ukraine to benefit from Article 5 without being a member of the North Atlantic Treaty Organization could create a momentum in the European Union's protection mission. Of course, military, financial, and humanitarian support for Ukraine is important, but a diplomatic and political guarantee, like the one proposed by Italy, could signal a lasting peace for Ukraine. Thank you for watching.